and having certain.
Yeah.
Get why.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest edition of the Hudson County Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Haig, and with me today is a very special guest who I feel is, without question, the most eclectic of Hudson County sports coaches, and it's none other than the head football coach at Lincoln High School, my friend Robert Hampton. Coach Hampton, good to have you with me today. How you doing today?
Hey, Jim, how you doing, man? Good talking with you.
Same here. Glad to have you. Okay.
Glad to be had.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I said to you, and I'll say it to the people who are listening, that when I wanted to have this podcast, I wanted to have Bob Hurley as my first guest, but then I wanted to have Coach Hampton as my second guest, and the reason being, and I've said this to a lot of people, is that I firmly believe that Coach Hampton is, without question, perhaps one of the most influential coaches in Hudson County. And the reason being is that he has sent so many of his former players on to college, kids that would have never gotten a chance to go on to college before. And not only did he turn the Lincoln football program completely around, I mean, before he got there, the Lincoln football team was, I think, 1-37 the last, and had a ridiculously long losing streak. And he took over and changed that around. But more importantly, never mind wins and losses, just the idea of how many of his former players he's been able to send off to college. And Coach, I appreciate you taking a few minutes with me, and thank you very much. And I don't know whether or not you've ever heard those words from me before, so I'm saying it here. So congratulations on being what you are.
Thank you very much. I'm flattered by that, and I'm just trying to do a job, man. I was very fortunate as a high school kid growing up in Jersey City. I had coaches that cared about me. I had great teachers and great parents coming from a great neighborhood, Lafayette Projects, Jersey City, and going to Lincoln High School and the HAP program down at Prep. I was very fortunate. Also, the Camp Olympic, Don Bragg Camp Olympic back in the early 70s. So I've had a situation in my life where people, always mentors, male mentors, always took care of me, and I felt like it's my obligation to take care of the kids I'm involved with.
Well, okay. So what was it about coaching? I mean, just first of all, let's go back to your youth. You grew up in Jersey City. You're a product of the Bergen Lafayette area. You went to Lafayette Projects. Okay, and what was it about sports that intrigued you early on as a kid?
Well, growing up in the 60s, man, we were very lucky. I always talk about my love affair. The first team I fell in love with was the '69 Mets because I went to a parochial school, All Saints and Assumption, and the nuns were going crazy over the Mets, so therefore we went crazy over the Mets. And the story was so intriguing. But my first time playing organized sports, I was horrible. I was like Charlie Brown, man. Like, it was ridiculous. I was awful. My coach was my uncle, Moses June Ridley, probably one of the greatest men I ever met. He was a paraplegic. He was in a wheelchair. And I was awful, man. I was horrible. And he didn't want me to quit because I was really fast. And he just told me, listen, we had a really good team. I remember Leslie Green, the Salgado brothers. We had some pretty good baseball players. And he just had me watching and just learning the game and the nuances of baseball. And he just said, just watch. I don't want you to quit. Every day, just get better at something. Fielding, hitting the ball, catching, throwing the ball, understanding how baseball is played. And that was my first example of how someone can make a kid feel like he's a part of something, even though he wasn't good at it. And that was my first coach, and that was my uncle. And he didn't keep me on the team because he was being nice to the family. I wasn't in. I didn't get in any games at all. I just was at practice. I had to come to practice every day, and I had to do something. I had to just learn the game. And the next year, I made the All-Star team.
And that was, where'd you play, for Greenville National?
YBA Little League. I played for the Tigers.
What Little League was that, Coach?
The YBA I think it was Young Black Businessmen or something like that. I don't remember. It was like the Little League downtown. We played at, which is now, it was Lafayette Park. Now it's Ursula Webb Park. And we played at down by the Turnpike.
Okay, that was downtown Little League back then, right?
Yeah, downtown. Well, it was called Bergen Lafayette. And it was different from the downtown Little League because downtown was downtown.
Right.
Downtown past Grove Street. That was another separate league. But we had our own league. And the teams were sponsored. Like, we had Perry Gladstone. We had, I think, certain businesses. We had T&J, the bar that was on Communipore. Each business in our area sponsored a team. And I forgot who our sponsors were. But we had some good athletes playing that Little League baseball team, man. It was pretty good. The Cardinals were the good team. And it was Cardinals and the STP Pirates. I think there was a paint store. So I think Sipperstein Paint sponsored the Pirates.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember that. We had some pretty good baseball players out of there. Yep.
All right. So what made you walk away from baseball and focus more on football?
Because I couldn't hit a curveball. That's what it was. The curveball ruined my whole love affair of baseball. It was a fastball. You was asking for trouble with that. Any type of crazy sinker ball. But the curveball, man, ruined all of that for me, man. I couldn't hit a curveball, and I wasn't patient enough to learn how to do it. And football, I guess because I'm very aggressive by nature, it fit into what I was, what my personality was like. And again, with football, I was the last one to get a helmet. The Lafayette Lions. I was the last helmet they gave out.
Wow.
And I made the All-Star team that year as well.
And was Harry Massey your coach? Or who?
No, Harry Massey, I never really I played for him as a freshman, but the Lafayette Lions coach was Wacky Dixon, another tremendous human being. And he picked me. He picked me as I got the last helmet. And some of the guys on the team, man, went on to be pretty good athletes in Jersey City. Like I played with Thomas Bess and Raymond Ortez, who were great basketball players.
Right.
The Wilson brothers. And but yeah, I was the last guy. And I came. I had a pair of jeans on. I looked like Charlie Brown with a helmet on. That's all I remember, man. I was awful, but I was okay. I was a nose guard, and I made the team, and I ended up tackling well, and I ended up playing guard. And I made the All-Star team that year.
Okay,
and
then when you went to Lincoln High School, was Franklin Walker the head coach?
No, when I went to Lincoln High School, it was Harry Massey's last year.
Okay.
And I was on a freshman team. The coach was Roy Berry, and then Harry Massey team went to the playoffs. They lost to Northern Highlands, and he selected a couple of freshmen to join him in the practice that week, and I was one of the freshmen that he selected. And I got a whiff of Mr. Massey's infamous cigarettes. I had to go to the store and get him cigarettes. There was a different time back then, Jim.
Absolutely.
And he was hard on me, man. He was also the dean of discipline in the school, and I didn't really have that issues at Lincoln. But he knew my mother and father because he went to Lincoln. He knew my Uncle Billy and my uncle. He knew all my uncles from the Maynard side and the Hampton side. And Mr. Gallo had grew up with my uncles in Lafayette. They all grew up on Pacific Avenue in the Lafayette area. And Coach Sarangelo grew up in the Lafayette area. And they all knew my family from growing up near Lafayette Project. So they had high expectations of me because of my family members. And so I played on Harry Massey's last team.
Wow. And then you played for Lincoln High School for your 3 years of varsity?
Yeah, I played my first two, my second and my sophomore and junior. I played under Joe Sarangelo, and we only won 5 games, and then he was dismissed. And then my last year I played for Franklin Walker, and we won 7-2. And then I graduated, went off to Boston University.
Okay. Now that in itself is a story, Coach. And how does an African American from the Lafayette section of Jersey City end up getting first of all, the grades, and second of all, getting noticed by Boston University?
Well, this is an interesting thing. They never heard of me. I was being recruited. There was only one guy that was getting recruited more than me in Hudson County, and you actually could look this up because I know you like doing stuff like that. It was Walker Lee Ashley and me. Walker Lee Ashley was the #1 linebacker in our county. I was number 2.
Okay.
And whoever didn't want him, they came to Lincoln to get me. And also, I played with Jeff Ledbetter, who was actually probably the #1 lineman in the nation at that time. People
Without question.
that. So, and now, if you look at our yearbook, Woody Hayes and Bo Shem. Well, Woody Hayes is in our '79 yearbook at Lincoln. He was at our pep rally, and Bo Schemblecker came the next week to recruit Jeff Ledbetter. So I was being recruited by Penn State as a walk-on, but I had offers from UCLA, Stanford, Tennessee. Oh, this is what happened. This is how I ended up at Boston University. Tennessee didn't want to recruit me because I was too small, and they told Boston University that there was a linebacker at Lincoln that they weren't going to recruit. They might want to take a look at me. So they didn't think they had a chance in hell of recruiting me because of all the big schools that were recruiting me. But my English teacher, Miss Morgan, who was driving me crazy that year, issued me a challenge. She was like, "Why don't you go to a school for academic purposes other than football?" Even though I was being recruited by Stanford and Northwestern, but she thought Boston would challenge me as a human being. That's what she kept saying. I needed to be. Life was too easy for me, she thought. I don't know what she was talking about. But when I went up there, I took the trip. I know I came down to Syracuse, Boston University, and actually Nebraska. I was going to walk on Nebraska. We had a connect out there with where Willie Young was out there and Tony Samuels. Yeah, so I wanted to be part of that Lincoln connection and go out there. So I was considering going to Nebraska, but I ended up going to Boston University, and I fell in love with the city. And I remember walking down Commonwealth Avenue, I saw the Dr. King Center, and I just had a reaction, man. I don't want to get all spiritual, but I said, "Oh man, this might be the place for me," and that's why I went there. It was that simple.
Okay, and so they didn't recruit you? You just all of a sudden?
No, they recruited me. Okay. They didn't think they was going to get me. They offered me a scholarship, but they didn't think they had a chance in hell because I wasn't really, like a guy that I was being recruited like by pretty big schools. They didn't think that a 1AA program at Boston University would have a shot at me. And I remember the guy that came to recruit me ended up being really good friends. He almost got robbed in our bathroom. He came to the bathroom in Lincoln. Lincoln was pretty rough back then. He went in the bathroom. There was a peace game going on in the bathroom. They was going to rob this guy. He had a New Hampshire accent.
Okay.
And so he said, "Yo, you guys know Robert Hampton?" And he said, "Yeah, they was going to rob him." So I happened to be coming downstairs, and I heard all the commotion in the bathroom. The dice game in there. I walked in the bathroom, and everybody, "Yo, he looking for you." I said, "What are you doing in this bathroom?" He said, "I'm Steve Stetson from Boston University." I said, "I think you better get out of this bathroom, man. I'm Robert Hampton." He said, "I was class president, so I was walking around the hallways doing something." And so that's how I met him, and we ended up being friends forever. And I liked him a lot, and that's why he actually was the reason why I went there. I liked him so much.
Okay.
He was a tremendous football player at Dartmouth, and then he was he coached at Hamilton College for a while, and he's a very good golfer. But he was a very super smart guy, and he coached at the University of New Hampshire for a while. I think he coached for Chip Kelly, the guy that was out in Oregon.
Sure.
On that staff. You remember they had this high-power offense in the early 90s.
Yep.
And he was part of that staff, and I liked him a lot. He was a good dude, man. And he was integral in getting me to like Boston University because I was always just impressed with stories. And so I didn't get to Penn State offered me a walk-on. So I had offers from Syracuse, UCLA, Northwestern, Stanford, and Pittsburgh, and Fordham, and Boston College. So I took Boston University.
Okay. And just to let you know that I ran into Jeff Ledbetter doing physical therapy about a month and a half ago or so, and he's doing well. And I dropped your name to him, and so it was great to see him. I said, "Wow, you were as good as it was when you were in high school." So he's still around, and he still works for the Jersey City Board of Ed, I think. As a matter of fact.
One thing people don't know about Jeff is a tremendous cook and baker, man.
That's what he said. Yes.
He can really. He's on restaurant level. Mm-hmm. He's a very good poet, and I think that. Even though he was an animal on a football field, he had that softer side about him. I always tease him about that. I said, "You were more of a instead of a 3-tech, you was more of a chef than actually a 3-tech. You know, but we were pretty tight, man. We had a pretty talented group on that team, and then we actually laid the foundation for a Franklin Walker State Championship team. He will say the team he coached his first year was the best team he ever. Yeah, man. We had Ricky Reeves on that team with Ricky
Amen.
Wilson, Darryl Morgan. I
Yep.
mean, it was loaded, man. And I, you know, and the thing that, you know, I want to give credit to Joe Sharangelo. That was probably one of the nicest human beings you ever want to be a part of, man. And he actually was really responsible, him and Tommy Donato, for making me middle linebacker, and Paul Caliades, who actually played at Snyder with Richie Glover. He was an All-American linebacker at Columbia University.
Yes, indeed.
So, and that guy, Caliades, Donato, and Sharangelo, they kind of honed my. They knew what I was inside, and they kind of unleashed that fury. So that was kind of a wild guy back then. So they knew how to harness, especially Donato. And,
Okay.
And that's what that was.
All right, so you went to Boston U. You played there, but things didn't go out as time
I was struggling academically. I was
You
really
were
having
struggling?
a hard time.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really having a hard time with college. I was having too much fun in the dorms. I mean, I had never really been like around like that type of freedom. And Boston, you know, is a college town, and
Yep.
I really took advantage of that. Football was easy. It was the work that was very difficult. And I made a decision with my line coach, my position coach, Coach Young, and that I just didn't think I had the energy to do both. And Rick Pitino was the basketball coach at Boston University at the time.
Wow.
And I used to play pickup basketball with him at midnight. And I remember his best player was a guy named Arturo Brown, who actually died on the basketball court. And he convinced me to take a bike ride with him. So I'm 6'3", Arturo Brown is 6'5". So we decided to ride a bike to Northeastern University. And we had played against Northeastern. I played against Sean Jones, and they're playing for the Green Bay Packers and the Oakland Raiders. And we actually were pretty good friends. And so the whole idea was for me to play football at Northeastern. So I ride a bike over to campus, and I fell in love with it. It was the first time I saw black fraternities. It was a step show. It was the largest step show in New England. So the campus was just alive, with a lot of young African Americans, some a lot different from Boston University. And I said, I think this is more my style. It also had a co-op program, which means that you can come home and get jobs in corporate America and get yourself prepared for the world after college. So I transferred. I went to Rich Taylor, and then I didn't think football was for me. He told me to think about it, and I was struggling academically. I got my grades right, and I transferred to Northeastern, and I stopped playing football, and I ended up just being a college student.
Okay, now, after you're done with college, you come back home, and you took a job on Wall Street.
Straight on Wall Street. I went straight to Irving Trust.
Okay. And you stayed on Wall Street for how many? A good time, right? Almost 20 years?
20 years. I worked at E.F. Hutton. I worked at Prudential Securities. I worked at Gruntle and Company, the NESD. I worked at State. I worked at Bank of New York. I worked at State Bank. I forgot one of the banks I worked at. But it was the 80s, man. It was great being on Wall Street.
Okay, and you were making good money?
I was doing quite well for myself.
All right.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden?
I decided that I wanted to try something different. I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. I got engaged, and we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I ended up working for Bank of America as a project manager. And I ran the investment center as assistant manager when I was at Wells Fargo. And I got married. I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. I got married in Jamaica, actually. And then I moved to Charlotte, and then I got tired of being a banker, and I became a teacher.
Okay.
In Waxhaw, North Carolina, Jim. Waxhaw, North Carolina.
What town?
Waxhaw, North Carolina, and Monroe, North Carolina.
Waxhaw?
And I became a basketball coach in Monroe and Waxhaw,
Waxhaw, North Carolina. See,
Waxhaw. The lady that hired me, a wonderful woman named Dana Carson.
Okay, well, see.
She hired me at a school that was for kids that were troubled. It was a behavior high school.
See, we've known each other for almost 20 years, Hamp, and I never, ever heard you say Waxhaw, North Carolina ever before.
Waxhaw, North Carolina. They gave me my first experience in the classroom, and that was life changing, buddy.
I can imagine.
That was so, man. That was so. And I ended up being a basketball coach too, man. That's a true story.
All right. So how do you end up back in Jersey City, and how do you?
I ended up back in Jersey City with 9/11. 9/11 happened, and I couldn't get in contact with anybody. And right after that, the team that won the state championship had a reunion, and I happened to talk to Franklin Walker, and he was like, "Listen, you might want to come up to Jersey City, man. The teaching salary a lot better than North Carolina." And I was like, "Well, I'm kind of happy down here. I don't, you know." So I thought about it, and I had got a great job as running the after-school programs at the YWCA in Monroe, North Carolina. And then they would talk about layoffs, and I was concerned I might get laid off. So I decided to take Mr. Walk up on his look, and I ended up coming up to Jersey City, and I gave my resume to Snyder and Lincoln, and whoever called me first, I was going to go. And Snyder called me first, and I went there to work at Snyder as a teacher.
Okay, and then how did coaching football come into play?
Well, this is interesting. Again, Franklin Walker, Adonis Blue was the head coach at Lincoln, and they weren't doing well, and
that's an understatement, Coach.
Yeah, they needed a freshman coach, so you couldn't find anybody, and
am I wrong with that record of career record?
They won. I think they were 2-30 something.
I thought it was 1-37, but you could be
I
right.
think they won one game in last. They didn't win a game for 2 years or
right.
3. Well, I'm not sure, 1 or 2 games. I had to look up Gridiron, New Jersey. It might be on there. But I was at a track meet in Lincoln Park watching a track meet, and Mafia asked me would I consider coaching the freshman team at Lincoln, and I wasn't interested. And then Franklin Walker kind of strong on me a little bit and said, "Listen, this guy might need some help, and you might get an opportunity down the road if you're interested. If anything, if it doesn't go well." And then I took the job as a freshman coach, and we had a pretty good team. We were 5-4, and that's how I ended up coaching. That started my coaching career in terms of football. And no one knew who I was because I hadn't played football since the 70s in Jersey City. So, no one knew me. There was no films, no nothing. I was kind of like a Clint Eastwood character, man. What's that? The high plains drifter guy. That's what I looked like. I just showed up, man. The guy with no name. Like Adonis Blue didn't go to Lincoln, so he never heard of me. I was just coaching a freshman team, and we did well, and we were the only team that was winning. And then, then I hung around, and when he was let go, Michael Venatolo had told me that I would get a shot, and then Franklin Walker and Dr. Wins told me that. Actually, Dr. Epps and Dr. Epps, Venatolo, and then Franklin Walker told me that I was going to be sent to Lincoln to be the head coach.
Okay.
That's how it happened.
All right. And what was your first reaction when you said?
I didn't want to do it.
You didn't want to do it. Okay.
I didn't want to have nothing to do with that. I kind of liked being at Snyder as a teacher. I didn't think that I was mentally prepared to be a high school head coach, and I understood that the well at Lincoln was pretty deep in terms of, it was the talent level wasn't that good, and the kids weren't really invested in winning. But there was the thing that the seniors the freshmen that I coached were now seniors, so I had a great relationship with them. So they actually signed a petition and gave it to Dr. Wynn saying that, they want me as a head coach. So I didn't know that until like 2 years later. And then they kind of strong on me a little bit, the kids. And that's how I ended up becoming the freshman coach. And then we had this crazy schedule that we could beat Snyder, because I figured that we can get the rivalry bug in our body, and we can go after them and beat them. And I knew the kids at Snyder. I kind of had an idea they weren't that disciplined, so I think I took a shot. We ended up beating them 2-0.
Yeah. Oh, that was a great game. Yeah,
it was a physical game. It was very physical, and but then we beat Dickinson. We beat Dickinson, and then we got close to beating Bayonne, and we lost to Bayonne 7-0. And we had Wilbur on the ropes. That started my whole rivalry with, Wilbur Valdez. That's my the cross to bear, that guy.
Yeah.
And we had them down at halftime, and then they came back and beat us. But I'll be honest, I was very lucky to have Bama colors that year, and
Yep.
Winfred Gaines and the legendary Tommy Ferraro.
Yeah.
And they were on my staff, and they were kind of like my shepherds to introduce me to high school football. And that was a great year. And a lot of those guys, man, I'm still close with. Like Gene Medusa is a police officer now, and Alex Sands is a county sheriff, and I'm pretty proud of them. And a guy named Flacco, Anthony Jarvis is a lieutenant in the Navy. So we had some pretty good guys on that team.
All right. And what was your record your first year at Lincoln?
We were 2-8.
2-8. There you go.
A strong 2-8, Jim. Strong
Okay.
2-8.
All right. And then from there, did it just picked up steam and kept going from there? Is that what
Well,
you're
I
saying?
was lucky because, remember, I was a freshman coach at Lincoln for 2 years. So the team after those guys were my second freshman team at Lincoln. That was Charles Cato and Absalom Lopez and the start of my Darby chain, Aaron Darby, by far the toughest quarterbacks, just an awesome human being. And I also helped coach his brother, who's a police officer now, also Terrell Darby. And so that was like that team was probably one of the toughest teams I ever coached because they actually knocked Joe Rotundi out of the playoff, Union Hill, and we beat them. And nobody at Cavern Point, we came back and beat them in double overtime. No, overtime, not double overtime. And that team went 3-7.
Okay.
3-7. Then the next year we went 3-7.
So your first 3 years, you were 2-8, 3-7, 3-7.
And then, in 2008 we won 6-4. We made the playoffs for the first time in 21 years.
Okay.
Yep, and that was we lost to Caldwell in the first round, and that was a tough team because that following year the captain of my team, Altrick Perry, was shot in the head.
Yeah, was killed.
And that was a rough time for me because he was a beautiful dude.
Yep. But I mean, did you sense at that point, Coach, that in 2008 you were turning that entire program around? That you were saying, okay, you said we're going to the state playoffs for the first time in 21 years, or did you think, could it have been a fluke? Could it have been just a one-shot deal?
I'll be honest with you. I thought we had something going on. I wasn't 100% sure because we did have issues with character and discipline still. So I didn't really think that we had the legs to make a run and develop a program. So it was still iffy because kids are kids, and we live in a rough area. And a level and investment.
Well, then how did you change that environment in terms of getting kids to buy into the fact of the discipline and what was necessary to be winning?
We started changing the drills and the workouts. We made everything mandatory. We made everything. You had to have a certain grades. You had to, not just what the school said, but I had my own rules. You had to do some level of community service. You had to do something other than play football. You had to be something that I can, like I say, I like this kid's character, and you had to be something other than just a football player.
All right. Now, how hard was that, Coach, to get kids
to buy into? That's why I didn't have a lot of kids. I got rid of a lot of kids.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, we looked at it like the 300, man. You only is strong.
Yeah.
You're only strong and dedicated and committed. You couldn't miss a weight room. So we got rid of all the ne'er-do-wells, the Saint gang members, the idiots, and the guys that were team killers. So we wanted a core group of boys, man, that were true believers. And one thing, the principal, Dr. Wynn, God bless his soul, he started allowing me to go to grammar schools to talk to kids and sell Lincoln's high school program. And by us making the playoffs, we were able to do that. Also, too, we had a lot of legacies on that team. They had little cousins at 40 school and 24 and 12 that they looked up to some of these guys that I had on my team. So therefore, I was going to get them when they got to high school, and they were talented. But the most important thing Dr. Wins did for me, when he sent me to Foyer School, and I got Ty Stevens and Ronald Butler to come to Lincoln. Once those two kids came to Lincoln, the whole culture of Lincoln changed.
Okay.
They were so talented on the rec level, and they were so popular in the streets with the kids that once I got them, the talent level in Lincoln started changing, and the work ethic started changing, and athleticism level started, arising, and we were able to, change some things, and we got better in the weight room. And the coaches got even more committed because we saw we had something special where we can just harness the wind and keep these guys under control with hard-nosed discipline. So it was parental support for some. We didn't have a lot of parental support, and we didn't have a lot of school support, but we had community support. That was very important.
And obviously, and Ronald Butler was not only a talented player because he played everywhere. He played wide receiver, he played running back, he played quarterback, he did everything. But he was
Ronald's still with me. Ronald was the guy, man. Ronald was like, the Johnny Appleseed, man. Once I got Ronald and Ty Stevens, man, everybody, because, Ronald's family's pretty popular, and he has a huge family. And once those guys came aboard, man, it was like, here come the McKnight brothers. Then there was Kenneth Brandon, and there was Tyquan Miller. And it was like David Wallace. All these guys knew each other from rec. They wanted to play with each other. And also the guy that was murdered, Tariq Perry, he was extremely popular on Lexington Avenue. And, and he was my guy. He was my captain. And so a lot of these guys had cousins and whatever. And also the mandate was we had to stop kids from going to Hoboken. That was the number one thing. we had to, you know how that is. We had to play a style of football that kids would want to come to Lincoln and not go to Hoboken. And that was the deal. And at that time, Ferris was the big dog in the Jersey public schools, so we had to beat Ferris.
Right.
And we never did, but our games were close, and they were very entertaining, and they were very physical contests.
Well, explain, Coach, I hate to interrupt, but explain a little bit why kids were able to go to Hoboken from Jersey City. Talk a little bit about the school's choice program.
School choice back in the early 80s. When I guess to Jersey, I wasn't around. I was in North Carolina. From what I heard, the schools were so bad in Jersey City that they had to have something else, and the school of choice was Hoboken.
Right.
So
Hoboken. Let me interrupt you then. Hoboken was able to do this, install the school choice program because their enrollment numbers were dropping below the state levels.
Yeah, remember once Hoboken turned into like Hoboken, what it is now, into like the millennial capital of the United States. So I think once that happened, man, a lot of people felt like, wow, it's safer to send our kids over there as opposed to what's going on in Jersey City. And also, their population was low, and the Hoboken new residents weren't sending their kids to Hoboken High School.
None at all. Right.
So they were sending them to prep and county prep and high tech and places like that. And so you didn't have anybody going there. So whoever did what they did, there's so many people that said I don't know who was part of it. I wasn't around. But they siphoned off. They figured it out. They were getting the entire PAL and rec teams from Jersey City to play football. And what that did, if you look at the bad football from all the Jersey publics, and look at there's a direct correlation between the bad football in Jersey City and the great football that's played in Hoboken.
Right.
So the whole idea that what we had to do at Lincoln is almost like a military campaign, man. We had to be that last wall, man. We had to beat Hoboken to stop kids from wanting to go over there. And that's why our Hoboken games are so intense.
Right.
And if you look at our scores, man, the games are, once we started catching up to them, because we beat them in 2009. Remember, we scored 32 points in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
We hadn't beat Hoboken in 10 years. The last one to beat them was Artie Williams in 1999.
Yeah, yeah.
On a rainy night.
Yeah.
And Hoboken kids thought the game was over, and Lincoln kids kept playing. So we beat them in 2009. We had to score 32 points in the fourth quarter to win that game.
Yeah.
And so I think that was like a major win. And they still, you still have people with the love of nothing personal, but this is business, man.
That's true. Yeah. All right. Now, and since then, just we don't have to go into great details, but what has the overall record been, and how many state playoff teams have you taken to the state playoffs since 2008?
Well, we've been to playoffs, let me see, 08, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, I think 11 teams.
Okay.
We won
11 out of 13 times.
Yep. And then
11
we
out of
went,
13 teams made the state playoffs.
Yep.
How many league championships?
2013, 2000. First time we won a tri-county championship in 09.
Okay.
The league championship and the county championship in 13. League championship in 14. League championship in 16. A league and county championship in 15. So 5 altogether.
Right.
And 3 state finals appearances.
And 3 state finals appearances. Right.
2010, 2014, 2015.
Right. And who would have ever thought that was a possibility of taking place at Lincoln High School?
Well, it's interesting, man. We didn't believe that. Obviously, we're gonna be candid. We just thought that we just wanted to just continue to get better. What the watershed moment was the 2010 team. That once that team went, we felt like the talent level when Deshaun Robinson didn't go to prep and came to Lincoln.
Yep.
That was a major coup. I love Rich Hansen, but I finally got a prep kid. Type of, he was like, he looked like a prep kid.
Right. Academically, spiritually, he was
a number 12 school, man. He had all A's. And, this guy walked in Lincoln and said, I'm going to Lincoln. I didn't believe him, man. I said, man, are you sure? I wanted to follow this kid home to make sure, he was going to come to Lincoln. But once we got him, that was a different breed. We weren't really getting that type of. That was a prep guy, man. That was he looked like a prep dude.
Yeah.
And we got him, and that's when I felt pretty good about our chances going back because he was another popular guy that people wanted to play for him. So when he got there, his cousin transferred from Hudson Catholic, Isaiah Roberts.
Yep.
And that was a beautiful guy at quarterback, man. He was like my Bob Hurley at quarterback.
Yep.
Man. He was like a point guard playing quarterback. And and we didn't go to the state championship win, but Letterman Deshaun Robinson did his senior year. And then we were fortunate enough to get DeVell Jones, man, who left Don Bosco, but he was a 4-year school kid.
Right.
And he wanted to break Ty Stevens' rushing record. And I didn't take the kid seriously because he went to Don Bosco. But it didn't work out for him there. It worked out for us at Lincoln, and that was great.
And he ended up going to Monmouth and
had
a great career there.
Yeah, he's doing great. He wants to be either a football coach or a state trooper. But I think that might change his senior year. He might get a shot at the NFL as well. So.
Could very well be. He's got an NFL body, that's for sure.
Yeah, one of the things I'm really proud of though is the number of police officers I have.
Okay.
And,
offhand how many?
We have Herman Malaby. We have Tyrell Darby. We have Alex Sands. We have, my nickname, I call him Soup. So we have about 6. We have 6 guys.
Okay. All right. More importantly, okay, do you know offhand how many kids you were able to get to go, never mind Division I, just to get out of Jersey City and go to a college somewhere? What's
75.
it? 75. 75.
Yep.
How amazing is that number?
Well, that's the most thing I'm proud of. I mean, everything else doesn't matter. I mean, that to me is the most. That's the thing we put our hand on. That our gold star moment is that when we hear that number, we raise our hand and say, hey, we did something good. We're proud of that number.
Okay.
And we all, we've also had some guys, man, that taste the dark side of life and are locked up that play for us well. But that number is way tinier than the number of guys we sent off to school and actually having some pretty productive lives. And we got a couple of investors. We got an investment banker. We got a guy working for a big top 5 accounting firm. So not along with the police officer. We got a film guy. So we have an eclectic bunch of got a couple of guys that want to be chefs. We have 2 teachers. I got a football players in China teaching now. Yeah. Played on my 06 team, Absalom Lopez.
And you have perhaps the number 1 quarterback coach in northern New Jersey in Lamar McKnight, who's now everybody and their mother sends. If your kid wants to be a quarterback, who do they go to get lessons from? Lamar McKnight.
Well, Lamar was a very articulate, handsome guy with a tremendous, freakishly great arm. And one thing, he loved the art of quarterbacking. And he could talk about being a quarterback all day, and he did great things for us, man. Under his reign, man, we won a tri-county championship.
Yep.
and we won some big games with him, man. And he was a very, John Sandin did a great job with him. We were running spread offense with him, and he did some great things for our program, and I'm very proud of him to see that he's taking his gifts and sharing them. And that's one of the things that I'm very fortunate about. A lot of kids that play for us, man, they really believe in paying it forward. I mean, they're just not interested in their own thing. They are interested in helping other kids, and that's the Jersey City way. I'm from that Jersey City culture, the FAR and Dr. Epps and, Mr. Hurley and that clique where you help people, man. You know how Jersey City is. I'm talking about the Jersey City we grew up, the Brummer's ice cream.
Absolutely.
Going to get a hot dog, Boulevard Franks, the Lowy State Theater, the Stanley Theater, man, the Roosevelt Stadium. I'm from that Jersey City, and Laco's Restaurant, and
you and I both. That's
Casa Dante back in the day, and remember the Canton on the square?
Oh gosh, that's the first time I ever had Chinese food was at the Canton Tea Garden.
Yeah, I remember we talked a couple of years ago when the basketball was like the Big East around here, man. Yep. So I mean, it's growing up in that Jersey City, you gotta help, man. There's no way in the world I'm gonna be Coach Hamp without not saying, hey, I gotta help somebody. Okay. Bill O'Day has helped me out, man. I'm always looking for the last remnants of that Jersey City guy. And you, Jim, you're one of them. It's not a lot of us left, man.
No, not a lot. Everybody else has packed up and moved out.
I'm tell you, the FAR, that dude, man. I mean, I ain't gonna tell you how I felt. I mean, him and Dr. Epps, man. It's a whole nother podcast conversation. Those two dudes, man. When they used to get finished with me, man, I laughed so hard because they used to always bother me about my little weirdness, character thing. They get a kick out of me. My levels of discipline they used to watch, and but that's Jersey City, man, and I'm a product of that. And I'm proud, man. And it's like I said, when you're a Jersey City guy, man, you shake them in the hand, look you in the eye, you know it's going to get done. Yep. There's not a lot of those guys left, man.
No, not at all, not one bit.
And I'm lucky enough to be that I can say that I've been a lot of them that took care of me,
Yep.
Took care of me, and I'm proud, and I try to do the same that was done for me.
Yep. Well, I apologize for the beeping that was going on while we were recording there, but that was my phone, which is how we record this podcast, and my phone was going off as we were in the middle of talking.
Jim, you know what's funny, man? I keep thinking, Bob Hurley spoke to our first game. He gave our pregame speech the night before we played Emerson.
Is that true?
First year as head coach. Yep, Mr.
Wow.
Hurley.
That's impressive.
He came down the old gym, and he reminded me that he played basketball at St. Peter's High School.
Yeah, St. Peter's Prep and then St. Peter's College.
And he played in the gym, and he played against my uncle, Donald Main, at Hedzo. His nickname was Hedzo.
Yep.
And because, Jersey City everybody has relationships with each other, once he heard my last name, he knew I was related to, a basketball player that played at Lincoln during his time, and he also remembered me when I played high school football. And he explained to the kids who I was and my legacy, and they didn't know. I didn't sell them anything.
Right.
And I was so proud, not only that he cared enough to tell my football players I was a pretty good athlete. I come from a serious background, and to take me serious. Once he put that stamp on my head, I was flying, man. I was flying that day, man. I was ready. We lost to Emerson 20-0, but I didn't care. We played hard, man.
You got Bob Hurley to talk.
Hey, Bob Hurley told me, man, hey, man, listen, man, you're doing the right thing. That's all I needed.
Okay.
Once he said it, and you told me don't quit, I was good to go. And once all you Jersey City real dudes was telling me keep digging, keep plugging, that was not a problem.
All right. Well, incredibly, we spent 40-something minutes talking about you. We didn't get a chance to talk a little bit about you talk about being eclectic. There's nobody more eclectic in Jersey City than Robert Hampton. So let's just talk about that a little bit. And first, every time we get together, we do a preseason preview. You always have something different to talk about, whether it's music or movies or sports or whatever. So tell me a little bit about how did your love of movies begin? And where did that all begin when you were a little kid?
My grandmother, man, she loved Humphrey Bogart, and she loved James Cagney, man, and Edward G. Robinson. And she was a Cary Grant nut. So I spent a lot of time, my parents worked a lot, so I spent a lot of time watching her. You remember we used to come home from school on Channel 7 was to be that, what was those movies used to come on, the Spartacus movies, all those things.
Yeah.
So my grandma used to be watching that, man. I used to be with her, so I just became a movie nut, man. And
The afternoon movie, it was called.
yeah, the afternoon movie, man, the $1 million movie or something like that. Remember Creature Feature?
Creature Feature on
Remember
Channel 11?
The Crawling Eye monster movie?
Yeah.
And then I used to always imitate It's Alive by Frankenstein, man. Colin Fitch, whatever his name is, it was the guy, the original Dr. Frankenstein.
Okay.
And Bela Lugosi. So all my life, man, I was just into movies, man. And I loved them. And I equated that to things in my life. And then 70s rock.
How did that come about? How in the world does an African American man?
70s rock we had something at All Saints called a Dartmouth House, where they send kids from Dartmouth down to the urban area to screw our brains up, and make us think we go to Ivy League schools. And they should come down there, man. They should be and they soundtrack. Now remember, this is the early '70s. I'm like 9, 8 years old. Yeah, that was about 1970, 10 years old, 71. And then they said the Animals, the Yardbirds,
oh my
the
gosh.
Beatles. Then I got into a little Led Zeppelin in college, man, in Kashmir. Definitely Rolling Stones, man. And then I just found that stuff interesting because it was different than what I was exposed to. But it was the Dartmouth House kids coming from all parts of the United States coming into the Lafayette area, and they used to bring the music with them.
Okay.
And then we had the Motown and the Motown and the Stax music, the James Brown stuff, and I be listening to the Animals, man. We gotta get out of this place. I love that Eric Burden. So then that did it. So now, man, I got all this stuff in my head. Ed Sullivan Show, all that, the Supremes, the Temptations. So now I go to school in Boston. I get introduced, man, to, the Jay Giles Band.
Yep.
And all that culture up there, man.
The Cars.
Then my roommate from New Hampshire turned me on to one dude, man. I threw the album at him. It was Bruce Springsteen. I said, I'm not listening to this. And then I liked it.
Okay.
And Neil Young, man. And, yeah, man, then that's what did it, man. So once I started coaching, man, I started seeing, like, similarities in music and sports teams, man, that I liked. And I was like, man, a lot of these things remind me of, like, things that would happen to me as a coach, I would equate to a movie or a movie or a song or a band that I liked, and I would just, so when you would come around, man, you would ask me a question, you just send me on a rant. And then what people don't know about me, I promoted jazz concerts, lived in Charlotte. And then that was my love of jazz, and ended up, I've been to Cuba, I've been to Japan, because of my love affair jazz.
Wow. Let's see. There's something else I didn't know about you.
I promoted jazz concerts in Charlotte, man. I did Chucho Valdez, the Cuban legend, piano. I did Diana Krall. I did Nancy Wilson. I did Terrence Blanchard, Gil Scott-Heron. What else did I do? Dee Dee Bridgewater. Diane Reeves, man. Yeah, man. Diana Krall was probably and Joshua Redmond.
Okay.
I did a lot. Yeah, I did that.
Diana Krall, who said that she's still to this day, it's not a good day unless she's had her glass of Jack Daniels and 2 packs of cigarettes. That's what she lives by.
She's a tough chick, man.
Yeah,
I mean, I met her, man. She's married to Elvis Costello now.
That's right.
Yeah, man. She was hilarious, man. And I took her to a restaurant. You take her out. I took her to get some fried chicken and collard greens.
Oh, well, you had to, right?
Yeah, man. She performed. She said, I don't know, like, I'm not used to just eating this much. Hey, don't worry about it. I'm paying you. Eat it.
Okay. All right. Now talk. We have 10 minutes left. Talk a little bit about your love of old sports teams, and how did that all come about? Teams that you.
Okay, the Mets was the first baseball team I fell in love with because of the nuns at my school, Sister Mary, and Sister Donna. They were really into the Mets. They thought Tom Seaver was cute. That's how it started. But they always.
And that's at what school? All Saints.
All Saints, yeah.
Okay.
They remember, man. It was like, cause I remember Raymond Ortez liked the Baltimore Orioles. Man, he probably deny that now, but I remember, man, she said, listen, all you kids in this room are underdogs. You're going to like the Mets. Why? And she explained why we need to like the Mets, because the Mets were dynamic and they were feisty. They won't go away. And I think they had just beat the Cubs or something. Yep. And the games were so epic, man. I'm like, man, these guys aren't talented, but they tough, man. I liked it. And they were making these great catches. The numbers were going bananas. I just fell in love with them, man. Then they had a song that after "Dream the Impossible Dream" they sang on television.
That's correct. No, yeah, they sang "You Gotta Have Heart" on television.
Yeah, they sang. Yeah, one of them.
That's who it was. They gotta have heart from Dan
And then
Yankee.
I fell in love with the Big Red Machine because they were just scary.
Yeah.
And then you had the Willie Stardew "We Are Family" team.
Yep.
And then you had the Reggie Jackson A's, man. They had these great nicknames. Vita Blue, that's his real name. Raleigh Fingers with the crazy handlebar mustache. Joe Rudy, Bert Campanaris, Blue Moon Odom, Catfish Hunter. You had these dudes. So they were colorful teams, man. So when I became a coach, I saw that I had colorful characters, man. And I would try to emulate things. I was a big Celtics fan. How Red Auerbach organized his program, and then I liked what John Thompson did and Louis Carnesecca did, and I was always a Rick Pitino fan because I knew him in college. So that's all. So all that just inspired me as a football coach.
Well, it certainly has. There's no question. Yeah, but
so if you look at all my teams, man, I try to put something in there of something like this particular team, even though.
But don't your kids look at you like you're nuts, like saying, "Coach,
they think
what are you
I'm nuts,
talking
man.
about?"
They don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah, right. They have no idea. You're talking about the
No,
1969
the
Mets. They don't know
anything. Because know what happened? Usually, someone shows up that's like in my age group that shows up at practice, and they explain me to them, or a former player or a guy that I grew up with. They explain my character to them. They find me hilarious, and things I like, things I don't like. They find the music I listen to insane. Like the other day, we had a weight room. I was playing Queen, man. Radio Gaga. They didn't want to hear that nonsense, but I loved it. Then they know I'm into Frank Sinatra. So one day I was playing My Way in the weight room, and they were like, "Oh, man, what's going on with you, man?" It's like, where you get this music from?
Do you realize that you have to be the only African American coach in America who's playing Frank Sinatra to his team? I hope you realize that you are the only one.
Oh, okay, listen, man. The chairman of the board, man. His work with Count Basie and Quincy Jones is epic, man. I'm a Frank Sinatra, man. I drink Jack Daniels because of Frank Sinatra.
There you go. That's
my man. That's my man. Yeah. Frank Sinatra.
And you're both from Hudson County. So you're both born in Jersey City. See? So
that's right, man. We was born up on Audubon Park somewhere around there.
Yeah, no, that's where they lived. That's
him and Nancy.
Him and Nancy, when they first got married, they lived up near Audubon Park, right across the street, right on Bergen Avenue.
We can't play Madison, man. I was in there. I had the guys and the refs, man, talking to me about Led Zeppelin songs.
And you're talking about Led Zeppelin songs, and you're saying, "Hey, I'm from the area where Frank Sinatra was born." Yeah,
that's right, man. He couldn't believe I even knew who Led Zeppelin was.
Yeah, no, especially.
I know Planet. I know who Jimmy Page is. Yeah. His guitar work on Kashmir is unreal. Yeah. He's like, "How you know about that?" Just because I'm African American, I know good music. Music is good music.
That's exactly the reputation that comes. Once you think you're African American, you don't think of all these white people and white music and white movies that you would never think. But
think about it. Remember I told you, man. Listen, man. One of the greatest jazz albums of all time, man. Miles Davis, Kind of Blue.
Yep.
Bill Evans would play a major role in that, man. He's a white cat, so you never know. You never know, man. So you don't judge people. You deal with talent. You deal with character. You deal with the content of their character, man.
And you want to talk about jazz?
He was born in North Carolina,
right?
But he lived in him. Yep.
But he lived in Weehawken, so.
Yep. So I'm telling you, man. I'm lucky. I've had a lot of diverse experiences, and I've tried to bring it all to my coaching style. It drives my coaches crazy, and my pregame speeches, man. They'll tell you, man. They don't know what the hell I'll be talking about half the time.
Okay, you got 4 minutes left Talk to me a little bit about what's the future of Lincoln football looking like over the next couple of years.
Well, hopefully I'll be a part of it. But I think this year's team 5-5. They were
And unfortunately, if for those who are just listening, Coach Hampton's team lost just this past weekend to Camden.
Camden was extreme, the most talented team I've seen in like 5 years. Extremely talented, tough. We had them on the ropes for a minute. We just don't have the athletes. But I think,
although let's face facts, a Jersey City team playing a Camden team in the Central Jersey Group 2 playoffs. There's something really wrong with that, don't you think?
Man, that's bizarre, man. I'll let somebody else deal with that, man.
Right,
Maybe someone else address that down the road. That shouldn't have happened. But
right.
it is what it is. We lost. They're a great team. But, I wish we didn't have to take a 2-hour bus ride. But they beat us. But I think the next 2 years, we have something special cooking in their locker room, man. These kids are tough, man. They're tough. We had a really young team last year. We had like 8 guys on this field that never played varsity football. So we're going to be all right, man. And we got a great quarterback coming back, kid named Oatmeal.
Yep.
Hopefully he don't play like his name. So, we're going to be all right, man. We got some talent.
And what's his real name? Oatmeal.
Jamil Lawrence. His father played for Lincoln, Michael Jackson, back in the 80s.
Okay.
And we have a couple of derbies coming in, so that could
more
be special.
derbies. Okay.
We got one derby coming in. That's an 8th grade out here. We got some nice running backs, man.
Is he Frank's brother or is he Frank's cousin?
No, he's their cousin. He's Rock Darby's nephew. Remember Tyreek Darby? He was your athlete of the year.
He was the Hudson Reporter Athlete of the Year. That's correct.
Yep, that's my man.
Okay.
He might join me as a coach as well.
Okay,
but,
good.
So we should be pretty good, man. We're gonna have a big line. They're a little more athletic than last year's line. We just got to get them as strong as last year's line. But they're gonna be bigger. So I like where we're heading, man. We got a great coaching staff. I stole Conroy,
yep.
Out of the prep legacy. So I got Stevie Pankowitz. So Mario's still with me.
That's correct.
And,
Mario Santana, my idol. Mario's
man, like Norm from Cheers, man.
Yeah,
he's just there, man. He's my Norm from Cheers, man.
He's the reason why I had the gastric sleeve surgery. He inspired me to do so.
Mario is like a horse, man. I need him, man. He's like a go-to guy, man. He's our horse, man. He keeps everything.
Doing
he
very
keeps
well.
me honest, puts me in check, but I get out of line.
Yeah.
You need a compass like Mario around you.
I hear you.
So that's his role, man. But I think that we're gonna be very good. I think we can make another run, and I like our chances next year.
Good.
We're gonna be way more athletic than last year. But last year's team was tough, man. We just lost our running backs early in the year, and we had to get really creative with running the football.
But you had a very competitive year, and more importantly, you took another Jersey City public school team to the state playoffs, which back when you first started, everybody would have never thought that there was going to be a team. No,
I didn't see that happen.
No, 11, and it's what, 11 out of 13 years? 11 out of 13?
Yes, sir.
That's an amazing statistic right then and there. So,
yeah, it's been the kids, man. It's been a great ride,
Coach Robert Hampton, I really appreciate that you came very close to speaking as long as Coach Hurley did. You came real close. You're only 47 seconds less than what Coach Hurley did last week.
Story of my life, man. I'm coming up short, man. Anytime I mention Coach Hurley, same breath, man, I'm on it, man. Tell him I said hi.
I will do, and thank you so very much for being my guest here today on the podcast, the Hudson County Sports Podcast. And we'll have another one next week with another special guest. And I thank everybody for listening to last week, and I know Coach Hampton is glad that he could be a part of it here today, and I thank you again, Coach Hampton. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you for having me. Have a good night.
All right, take care now. And,
bye-bye.
And we'll be back next week with more of the Hudson County Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Take care now. And have it strict.
Yeah.
why.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest edition of the Hudson County Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Haig, and with me today is a very special guest who I feel is, without question, the most eclectic of Hudson County sports coaches, and it's none other than the head football coach at Lincoln High School, my friend Robert Hampton. Coach Hampton, good to have you with me today. How you doing today?
Hey, Jim, how you doing, man? Good talking with you.
Same here. Glad to have you. Okay.
Glad to be had.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I said to you, and I'll say it to the people who are listening, that when I wanted to have this podcast, I wanted to have Bob Hurley as my first guest, but then I wanted to have Coach Hampton as my second guest, and the reason being, and I've said this to a lot of people, is that I firmly believe that Coach Hampton is, without question, perhaps one of the most influential coaches in Hudson County. And the reason being is that he has sent so many of his former players on to college, kids that would have never gotten a chance to go on to college before. And not only did he turn the Lincoln football program completely around, I mean, before he got there, the Lincoln football team was, I think, 1-37 the last and had a ridiculously long losing streak, and he took over and changed that around. But more importantly, never mind wins and losses, just the idea of how many of his former players he's been able to send off to college. And Coach, I appreciate you taking a few minutes with me, and thank you very much. And I don't know whether or not you've ever heard those words from me before, so I'm saying it here. So congratulations on being what you are.
Thank you very much. I'm flattered by that, and I'm just trying to do a job, man. I was very fortunate as a high school kid growing up in Jersey City. I had coaches that cared about me. I had great teachers and great parents coming from a great neighborhood, Lafayette Projects, Jersey City, and going to Lincoln High School and the HAP program that I prepped. I was very fortunate. Also, the Camp Olympic, Don Bragg Camp Olympic back in the early 70s. So I've had a situation in my life where people always male mentors always took care of me, and I felt like it's my obligation to take care of the kids I'm involved with.
Well, okay. So what was it about coaching? I mean, just first of all, let's go back to your youth. You grew up in Jersey City. You're a product of the Bergen Lafayette area. You went to Lafayette Projects. Okay, and what was it about sports that intrigued you early on as a kid?
Well, growing up in the 60s, man, we were very lucky. I always talk about my love of sin. The first team I fell in love with was the '69 Mets because I went to a parochial school, All Saints and Assumption, and the nuns were going crazy over the Mets, so therefore we went crazy over the Mets. And the story was so intriguing. But my first time playing organized sports, I was horrible. I was like Charlie Brown, man. Like, it was ridiculous. I was awful. My coach was my uncle, Moses June Ridley, probably one of the greatest men I ever met. He was a paraplegic. He was in a wheelchair. And I was awful, man. I was horrible. And he didn't want me to quit because I was really fast. And he just told me, listen, we had a really good team. I remember Leslie Green, the Salgado brothers. We had some pretty good baseball players. And he just had me watching and just learning the game and the nuances of baseball. And he just said, just watch. I don't want you to quit. Every day, just get better at something. Fielding, hitting the ball, catching, throwing the ball, understanding how baseball is played. And that was my first example of how someone can make a kid feel like he's a part of something, even though he wasn't good at it. And that was my first coach, and that was my uncle. And he didn't keep me on the team because he was being nice to the family. I wasn't in. I didn't get in any games at all. I just was at practice. I had to come to practice every day, and I had to do something. I had to just learn the game. And the next year, I made the All-Star team.
And that was, where'd you play, for Greenville National?
YBA Little League. I played for the Tigers.
What Little League was that, Coach?
The YBA I think it was Young Black Businessmen or something like that. I don't remember. It was like The Little League downtown. We played at, which is now, it was Lafayette Park. Now it's Ursula Webb Park, and we played at down by the Turnpike.
Okay, that was downtown Little League back then, right?
Yeah, downtown. Well, it was called Bergen Lafayette, and it was different from the downtown Little League because downtown was downtown.
Right.
Downtown past Grove Street. That was another separate league, but we had our own league, and the teams were sponsored. Like we had Perry Gladstone. We had, I think, certain businesses. We had T&J's, the bar that was on Communipore. Each business in our area sponsored a team, and I forgot who our sponsors were, but we had some good athletes playing that Little League baseball team, man. It was pretty good. The Cardinals were the good team. And it was Cardinals and the STP Pirates. I think there was a paint store. So I think Sipperstein Paint sponsored the Pirates.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember that. We had some pretty good baseball players out of there. Yep.
All right. So what made you walk away from baseball and focus more on football?
Because I couldn't hit a curveball. That's what it was. The curveball ruined my whole love affair of baseball. It was a fastball. You was asking for trouble with that. Any type of crazy sinker ball. But the curveball, man, ruined all of that for me, man. I couldn't hit a curveball. I wasn't patient enough to learn how to do it. And football, I guess because I'm very aggressive by nature, it fit into what I was, what my personality was like. And again, with football, I was the last one to get a helmet. The Lafayette Lions. I was the last helmet they gave out.
Wow.
And I made the All-Star team that year as well.
And was Harry Massey your coach? Or who?
No, Harry Massey, I never really I played for him as a freshman, but the Lafayette Lions coach was Wacky Dixon, another tremendous human being. And he picked me. He picked me as I got the last helmet. And some of the guys on the team, man, went on to be pretty good athletes in Jersey City. Like I played with Thomas Bess and Raymond Ortez, who were great basketball players.
Right.
The Wilson brothers. And but yeah, I was the last guy. And I came. I had a pair of jeans on. I looked like Charlie Brown with a helmet on. That's all I remember, man. I was awful, but I was okay. I was a nose guard, and I made the team, and I ended up tackling well, and I ended up playing guard. And I made the All-Star team that year.
Okay,
and then my first coach. Mm-hmm.
And then when you went to Lincoln High School, was Franklin Walker the head coach?
No, when I went to Lincoln High School, it was Harry Massey's last year.
Okay.
And I was on a freshman team. The coach was Roy Berry, and then Harry Massey team went to the playoffs. They lost to Northern Highlands, and he selected a couple of freshmen to join him in the practice that week, and I was one of the freshmen that he selected. And I got a whiff of Mr. Massey's infamous cigarettes. I had to go to the store and get him cigarettes. There was a different time back then, Jim.
Absolutely.
And he was hard on me, man. He was also the dean of discipline in the school, and I didn't really have that issues at Lincoln. But he knew my mother and father because he went to Lincoln. He knew my Uncle Billy and my uncle. He knew all my uncles from the Maynard side and the Hampton side. And Mr. Gallo had grew up with my uncles in Lafayette. They all grew up on Pacific Avenue, the Lafayette area. And Coach Sarangelo grew up in the Lafayette area. And they all knew my family from growing up near Lafayette Project. So they had high expectations of me because of my family members. And so I played on Harry Massey's last team.
Wow. And then you played for Lincoln High School for your 3 years of varsity?
Yeah, I played my first two, my second and my junior, my sophomore and junior. I played under Joe Sarangelo, and we only won 5 games, and then he was dismissed. And then my last year I played for Franklin Walker, and we won 7-2. And then I graduated, went off to Boston University.
Okay. Now that in itself is a story, Coach. And how does an African American from the Lafayette section of Jersey City end up getting, first of all, the grades, and second of all, getting noticed by Boston University?
Well, this is an interesting thing. They never heard of me. I was being recruited. There was only one guy that was getting recruited more than me in Hudson County, and you actually could look this up because I know you like doing stuff like that. It was Walker Lee Ashley and me. Walker Lee Ashley was the #1 linebacker in our county. I was number 2.
Okay.
And whoever didn't want him, they came to Lincoln to get me. And also I played with Jeff Ledbetter, who was actually probably the #1 lineman in the nation at that time.
Without question.
So, if you look at our yearbook, Woody Hayes and Bo Shem, Woody Hayes is in our 79 yearbook at Lincoln. He was at our pep rally. And Bo Schemblecker came the next week to recruit Jeff Ledbetter. So I was being recruited by Penn State as a walk-on, but I had offers from UCLA, Stanford, Tennessee. Oh, this is what happened. This is how I ended up at Boston University. Tennessee didn't want to recruit me because I was too small. And they told Boston University that there was a linebacker at Lincoln that they weren't going to recruit. They might want to take a look at me. So they didn't think they had a chance in hell of recruiting me because of all the big schools that were recruiting me. But my English teacher, Miss Morgan, who was driving me crazy that year, issued me a challenge. She was like, "Why don't you go to a school for academic purposes other than football?" Even though I was being recruited by Stanford and Northwestern, but she thought Boston would challenge me as a human being. That's what she kept saying. I needed to be. Life was too easy for me. She thought. I don't know what she was talking about. But when I went up there, I took the trip. I know I came down to Syracuse, Boston University, and actually Nebraska. I was going to walk on Nebraska. We had a connect out there with where Willie Young was out there and Tony Samuels.
Tony Samuels.
Yeah, so I wanted to be part of that Lincoln connection and go out there. So I was considering going to Nebraska, but I ended up going to Boston University, and I fell in love with the city. And I remember walking down Commonwealth Avenue. I saw the Dr. King Center, and I just had a reaction, man. I don't want to get all spiritual, but I said, "Oh man, this might be the place for me," and that's why I went there. It was that simple.
Okay, and so they didn't recruit you? You just all of a sudden?
No, they recruited me. Okay. They didn't think they was going to get me. They offered me a scholarship, but they didn't think they had a chance in hell because I wasn't really, like a guy that I was being recruited like by pretty big schools. They didn't think that a 1AA program at Boston University would have a shot at me. And I remember the guy that came to recruit me ended up being really good friends. He almost got robbed in our bathroom. He came to the bathroom in Lincoln. Lincoln was pretty rough back then. He went in the bathroom. There was a peace game going on in the bathroom. And they was going to rob this guy. He had a New Hampshire accent.
Okay.
And so he said, "Yo, you guys know Robert Hampton?" And he said, "Yeah, they was going to rob him." So I happened to be coming downstairs, and I heard all the commotion in the bathroom. The dice game in there. I walked in the bathroom, and everybody, "Yo, he looking for you." I said, "What are you doing in this bathroom?" He said, "I'm Steve Stetson from Boston University." I said, "I think you better get out of this bathroom, man. I'm Robert Hampton." He said, I was class president, so I was walking around the hallways doing something, and so that's how I met him, and we ended up being friends forever. And I liked him a lot, and that's why he actually was the reason why I went there. I liked him so much.
Okay.
He was a tremendous football player at Dartmouth, and then he was he coached at Hamilton College for a while, and he's a very good golfer. But he was a very super smart guy, and he coached at the University of New Hampshire for a while. I think he coached for Chip Kelly, the guy that was out in Oregon.
Sure.
On that staff. And you remember they had this high-power offense in the early 90s.
Yep.
And he was part of that staff, and I liked him a lot. He was a good dude, man. And he was integral in getting me to like Boston University because I was always just impressed with stories. So I didn't get to Penn State offered me a walk-on. So I had offers from Syracuse, UCLA, Northwestern, Stanford, and Pittsburgh, and Fordham, and Boston College. So I took Boston University.
Okay. And just to let you know that I ran into Jeff Ledbetter doing physical therapy about a month and a half ago or so, and he's doing well. And I dropped your name to him, and so it was great to see him. I said, "Wow, you were as good as it was when you were in high school." So he's still around, and he still works for the Jersey City Board of Ed, I think. As a matter of
fact. One thing people don't know about Jeff is a tremendous cook and baker, man.
That's what he said. Yes.
He can really. He's on restaurant level. Mm-hmm. He's a very good poet, and I think that. Even though he was an animal on a football field, he had that softer side about him. I always tease him about that. I said, you were more of instead of a 3-tech, you was more of a chef than actually a 3-tech. We were pretty tight, man. We had a pretty talented group on that team. And then we actually laid the foundation for a Franklin Walker State Championship team. He will say the team he coached his first year was the best team he ever. We had Ricky Reeves on that team with Ricky
Amen.
Wilson, Darryl Morgan. I mean, it was loaded, man. And and the thing that I want to give credit to Joe Sarangelo. That was probably one of the nicest human beings you ever want to be a part of, man. And he actually was really responsible, him and Tommy Donato, for making me middle linebacker, and Paul Caliades, who actually played at Snyder with Richie Glover. He was an All-American linebacker at Columbia University.
Yes, indeed.
So, and that guy, Caliades, Donato, and Sarangelo, they kind of honed my. They knew what I was inside, and they kind of unleashed that fury. So that was kind of a wild guy back then. So they knew how to harness, especially Donato. And,
Okay.
And that's what that was.
All right, so you went to Boston U. You played there, but things didn't go out as
I
time
was struggling academically. I was
You
really
were
having
struggling?
a hard time.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really having a hard time with college. I was having too much fun in the dorms. I mean, I had never really been like around like that type of freedom. And Boston, is a college town, and I really took advantage of that. Football was easy. It was the work that was very difficult. And I made a decision with my line coach, my position coach, Coach Young, and that I just didn't think I had the energy to do both. And Rick Pitino was the basketball coach at Boston University at the time.
Wow.
And I used to play pickup basketball with him at midnight. And I remember his best player was a guy named Arturo Brown, who actually died on the basketball court. And he convinced me to take a bike ride with him. So I'm 6'3", Arturo Brown is 6'5". So we decided to ride a bike to Northeastern University. And we had played against Northeastern. I played against Sean Jones, and ended up playing for the Green Bay Packers and the Oakland Raiders. And we actually were pretty good friends. And so the whole idea was for me to play football at Northeastern. So I ride a bike over to campus, and I fell in love with it. It was the first time I saw black fraternities. It was a step show. It was the largest step show in New England. So the campus was just alive with, a lot of young African Americans, some a lot different from Boston University. And I said, I think this is more my style. Also, they had a co-op program, which means that you can come home and get jobs in corporate America and get yourself prepared for, the world after college. So I transferred. I went to Rich Taylor, and then I didn't think football was for me. He told me to think about it, and I was struggling academically. I got my grades right, and I transferred to Northeastern, and I stopped playing football, and I ended up just being a college student.
Okay, now after you're done with college, you come back home, and you took a job on Wall Street.
Straight on Wall Street. I went straight to Irving Trust.
Okay. And you stayed on Wall Street for how many? A good time, right? Almost 20 years?
Almost 20 years. I worked at E.F. Hutton. I worked at Prudential Securities. I worked at Gruntle and Company, the NASD. I worked at I worked at Bank of New York. I worked at State Bank. I forgot one of the banks I worked at. But it was the 80s, man. It was great being on Wall Street.
Okay, and you were making good money?
I was doing quite well for myself.
All right.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden?
I decided that I wanted to try something different. I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. I got engaged, and we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I ended up working for Bank of America as a project manager. And I ran the investment center as assistant manager when I was at Wells Fargo. And I got married. I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. I got married in Jamaica, actually. And then I moved to Charlotte, and then I got tired of being a banker, and I became a teacher.
Okay.
In Waxhaw, North Carolina, Jim. Waxhaw, North Carolina.
What town?
Waxhaw, North Carolina, and Monroe, North Carolina.
Waxhaw?
And I became a basketball coach in Monroe and Waxhaw,
Waxhaw, North Carolina. See,
Waxhaw, the lady that hired me, a wonderful woman named Dana Carson.
Okay, well, see.
She hired me at a school that was for kids that were troubled. It was a behavior high school.
See, we've known each other for almost 20 years, Hamp, and I never, ever heard you say Waxhaw, North Carolina ever before.
Waxhaw, North Carolina. They gave me my first experience in the classroom, and that was life changing, buddy.
I can imagine.
That was something, man. That was something. And I ended up being a basketball coach too, man. That's a true story.
All right. So how do you end up back in Jersey City, and how do you?
I ended up back in Jersey City with 9/11. 9/11 happened, and I couldn't get in contact with anybody. And right after that, the team that won the state championship had a reunion, and I happened to talk to Franklin Walker, And he was like, listen, you might want to come up to Jersey City, man. The teaching salary a lot better than North Carolina. And I was like, well, I'm kind of happy down here. I don't, you know. So I thought about it, and I had got a great job as running the after-school programs at the YWCA in Monroe, North Carolina. And then they would talk about layoffs, and I was concerned I might get laid off. So I decided to take Mr. Walker up on his look, and I ended up coming up to Jersey City, and I gave my resume to Snyder and Lincoln, and whoever called me first, I was going to go. And Snyder called me first, and I went there to work at Snyder as a teacher.
Okay, and then how did coaching football come into play?
Well, this is interesting. Again, Franklin Walker, Adonis Blue Adonis Blue was the head coach at Lincoln. And they weren't doing well, and
that's an understatement, Coach.
Yeah, they needed a freshman coach, so he couldn't find anybody. And
am I wrong with that record of career record?
No, they won. I think they were 2-30 something.
I thought it was 1-37, but you could be
I
right.
think they won one game as last. They didn't win a game for 2 years or
right.
3. But I'm not sure, 1 or 2 games. I had to look up Gridiron, New Jersey. It might be on there. But I was at a track meet in Lincoln Park watching a track meet, and Mafia asked me would I consider coaching the freshman team at Lincoln, and I wasn't interested. And then Franklin Walker kind of strong on me a little bit and said, listen, this guy might need some help, and you might get an opportunity down the road if you're interested. If anything, if it doesn't go well. And then I took the job as a freshman coach, and we had a pretty good team. We were 5-4. And that's how I ended up coaching. That started my coaching career in terms of football. And no one knew who I was because I hadn't played football since the 70s in Jersey City. So, no one knew me. There was no films, no nothing. I was kind of like a Clint Eastwood character, man. What's that? The high plane drifter guy. That's what I looked like. I just showed up, man. The guy with no name. Like Adonis Blue didn't go to Lincoln, so he never heard of me. I was just coaching a freshman team, and we did well, and we were the only team that was winning. And then, then I hung around, and he was let go. Michael Vinatolo had told me that I would get a shot, and then Franklin Walker and Dr. Wins told me that. Actually, Dr. Epps and Dr. Epps, Vinatolo, and then Franklin Walker told me that I was going to be sent to Lincoln to be the head coach.
Okay.
That's how it happened.
All right. And what was your first reaction when you said...
I didn't want to do it.
You didn't want to do it? Okay.
I didn't want to have nothing to do with that. I kind of liked being at Snyder as a teacher. I didn't think that I was mentally prepared to be a high school head coach. And I understood that the well at Lincoln was pretty deep in terms of, it was the talent level wasn't that good. And the kids weren't really invested in winning. But there was the thing that the seniors the freshmen that I coached were now seniors. So I had a great relationship with them. So they actually signed a petition and gave it to Dr. Wynn saying that, they want me as a head coach. So I didn't know that until like 2 years later. And then they kind of strong-armed me a little bit, the kids. And that's how I ended up becoming the freshman coach. And then we had this crazy schedule that we could beat Snyder because I figured that we can get the rivalry bug in our body and we can go after them and beat them. And I knew the kids at Snyder. I kind of had an idea they weren't that disciplined, so I think I took a shot. We ended up beating them 2-0.
Yeah. Oh, that was a great game. Yeah,
it was a physical game. It was very physical, and but then we beat Dickinson. We beat Dickinson, and then we got close to beating Bayonne, we lost to Bayonne 7-0. And we had Wilbur on the ropes. That started my whole rivalry with, Wilbur Valdez. That's my the cross the bear, that guy.
Yeah.
And we had them down at halftime, and then they came back and beat us. But I'll be honest, I was very lucky to have Bama colors that year, and Winford Gaines and the legendary Tommy Ferraro.
Yeah.
And they were on my staff, and they were kind of like my shepherds to introduce me to high school football. And that was a great year. And a lot of those guys, man, I'm still close with. Like Gene Meduse is a police officer now, and Alex Sands is a county sheriff, and I'm pretty proud of them. And a guy named Flacco. Anthony Jarvis is a lieutenant in the Navy. So we had some pretty good guys on that team.
All right. And what was your record your first year at Lincoln?
We were 2-8.
2-8. There you go.
A strong 2-8, Jim. Strong 2-8.
All right. And then from there, did it just picked up steam and kept going from there? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I was lucky because remember I was a freshman coach at Lincoln for 2 years. So the team after those guys were my second freshman team at Lincoln. That was Charles Cato and Absalon Lopez and the start of my Darby chain, Aaron Darby, by far the toughest quarterbacks, just an awesome human being. And I also helped coach his brother, who's a police officer now, also Terrell Darby. And so that was like that team was probably one of the toughest teams I ever coached because they actually knocked Joe Rotundi out of the playoff Union Hill, and we beat them. And nobody at Cleveland Point, and we came back and beat them in double overtime. No overtime, not double overtime. And that team went 3-7.
Okay.
3-7. Then the next year we went 3-7.
So your first 3 years, you were 2-8, 3-7, 3-7.
And then in 2008 we won 6-4. We made the playoffs for the first time in 21 years.
Okay.
Yep. And that was we lost to Caldwell in the first round. And that was a tough team because that following year, the captain of my team, Alteric Perry, was shot in the head.
Yeah, was killed.
And that was a rough time for me because he was a beautiful dude.
Yep. But I mean, did you sense at that point, Coach, that in 2008 you were turning that entire program around? That you were saying, okay, you said we're going to the state playoffs for the first time in 21 years, or did you think? What could it have been a fluke? Could it have been just a one-shot deal?
I'll be honest with you. I thought we had something going on. I wasn't 100% sure because we did have issues with character and discipline still. So I didn't really think that we had the legs to make a run and develop a program. So it was still iffy because kids are kids, and we live in a rough area. And a level and investment.
Well, then how did you change that environment in terms of getting kids to buy into the fact of the discipline and what was necessary to be winning?
We started changing the drills and the workouts. We made everything mandatory. We made everything. You had to have a certain grade. You had to, not just what the school said, but I had my own rules. You had to. You had to do some level of community service. You had to do something other than play football. You had to be something that I can, like I say, I like this kid's character, and you had to be something other than just a football player.
All right, now how hard was that, Coach, to get kids
to buy into it? That's why I didn't have a lot of kids. I got rid of a lot of kids.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, we looked at it like the 300, man. You only is strong.
Yeah.
You only is strong and dedicated and committed. And you couldn't miss a weight room. So we got rid of all the the ne'er-do-wells, the faint gang members, the idiots, and the guys that were team killers. So we wanted a core group of boys, man, that were true believers. And one thing, the principal, Dr. Wynn, God bless his soul, he started allowing me to go to grammar schools to talk to kids and sell Lincoln's high school program. And by us making the playoffs, we were able to do that. Also, too, we had a lot of legacies on that team. They had little cousins at 40 school and 24 and 12 that they looked up to some of these guys that I had on my team. So therefore, I was going to get them when they got to high school, and they were talented. But the most important thing Dr. Wins did for me, when he sent me to four-year school, and I got Ty Stevens and Ronald Butler to come to Lincoln. Once those two kids came to Lincoln, the whole culture of Lincoln changed.
Okay.
They were so talented on the rec level, and they were so popular in the streets with the kids that once I got them, the talent level of Lincoln started changing. Yep. And the work ethic started changing, and athleticism level started, arising, and, we were able to, change some things, and we got better in the weight room. And the coaches got even more committed because we saw we had something special where we can just harness the wind and keep these guys under control with hard-nosed discipline. So it was parental support for some. We didn't have a lot of parental support, and we didn't have a lot of school support, but we had community support. That was very important.
And obviously, and Ronald Butler was not only a talented player, because he played everywhere. He played wide receiver, he played running back, he played quarterback, he did everything. But he was.
Ronald's still with me. Ronald was the guy, man. Ronald was like, the Johnny Appleseed, man. Once I got Ronald and Ty Stevens, man, everybody, because Ronald's family's pretty popular, and he has a huge family. And once those guys came aboard, man, it was like, here come the McKnight brothers. Then there was Kenneth Brandon, and there was Tyquan Miller, and it was like David Wallace. All these guys knew each other from rec. They wanted to play with each other. And also the guy that was murdered, Tariq Perry, he was extremely popular on Lexington Avenue, and and he was my guy, he was my captain. And so a lot of these guys had cousins and whatever. And also the mandate was we had to stop kids from going to Hoboken. That was the number one thing. we had to, you know how that is. We had to play a style of football that kids would want to come to Lincoln and not go to Hoboken. And that was the deal. And at that time, Ferris was the big dog in the Jersey public schools, so we had to beat Ferris.
Right.
And we never did, but our games were close, and they were very entertaining, and they were very physical contests.
Well, Coach, I hate to interrupt, but explain a little bit why kids were able to go to Hoboken from Jersey City. Talk a little bit about the school choice program.
School choice back in the early 80s. Well, I guess in Jersey, I wasn't around. I was in North Carolina. From what I heard, the schools were so bad in Jersey City that, they had to have something else, and the school of choice was Hoboken.
Right.
So
Hoboken. Let me interrupt you then. Hoboken was able to do this, install the school choice program because their enrollment numbers were dropping below the state levels.
Yeah,
so,
remember once Hoboken turned into like Hoboken, what it is now, to like the millennial capital of the United States. So I think once that happened, man, a lot of people felt like, wow, it's safer to send our kids over there as opposed to what's going on in Jersey City. And also their population was low, and the Hoboken new residents weren't sending their kids to Hoboken High School.
None at all. No.
So they were sending them to prep and county prep and high tech and places like that. And so you didn't have anybody going there. So whoever did what they did, there's so many people that said I don't know who was part of it, I wasn't around, but they siphoned off, they figured it out, they were getting the entire PAL and rec teams from Jersey City to play football. And what that did, if you look at the bad football from all the Jersey publics, and look at there's a direct correlation between the bad football in Jersey City and the great football that's played in Hoboken.
Right.
So the whole idea that what we had to do at Lincoln is almost like a military campaign, man. We had to be that last wall, man. We had to beat Hoboken to stop kids from wanting to go over there. And that's why our Hoboken games are so intense.
Right.
And if you look at our scores, man, the games are, once we started catching up to them, because we beat them in 2009. Remember, we scored 32 points in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
We hadn't beat Hoboken in 10 years. The last one to beat them was Artie Williams in 1999.
Yeah, yeah.
On a rainy night.
Yeah.
And Hoboken kids thought the game was over, and Lincoln kids kept playing. So we beat them in 2009. We had to score 32 points in the fourth quarter to win that game.
Yeah.
And so I think that was like a major win. Just to get, and they still, you still have people with the love of nothing personal, but this is business, man.
That's true. Yeah. All right. Now, and since then, just we don't have to go into great details, but what has the overall record been, and how many state playoff teams have you taken to the state playoffs since 2008?
We've been to playoffs, let me see, 08, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, I think 11 teams.
Okay.
We won
11 out of 13 times.
Yep. And then
11 out of 13 teams made the state playoffs.
Yep.
How many league championships?
2013, first time we won a tri-county championship in 09.
Okay.
The league championship and the county championship in 13. League championship in 14. League championship in 16. League and county championship in 15. So 5 altogether.
Right.
And 3 state finals appearances.
Right.
2010, 2014, 2015.
Right. And who would have ever thought that that was a possibility of taking place at Lincoln High School?
Well, it's interesting, man. We didn't believe that. Obviously, we're gonna be candid. We just thought that we just wanted to just continue to get better. What the watershed moment was the 2010 team. That once that team went, we felt like the talent level when Deshaun Robinson didn't go to prep and came to Lincoln.
Yep.
That was a major coup. I love Rich Hansen, but I finally got a prep kid. Type of, he was like, he looked like a prep kid.
Right. Academically, spiritually, he was
a number 12 school, man. Yeah. He had all A's. And, this guy walked in Lincoln and said, I'm going to Lincoln. I didn't believe him, man. I said, man, are you sure? I wanted to follow this kid home to make sure, he was going to come to Lincoln. But once we got him, that was a different breed. We weren't really getting that type of. That was a prep guy, man. He looked like a prep dude.
Yeah.
And we got him, and that's why I felt pretty good about our chances going back, because he was another popular guy that people wanted to play for him. So when he got there, his cousin transferred from Hudson Catholic, Isaiah Roberts.
Yep.
And that was a beautiful guy at quarterback, man. He was like my Bob Hurley at quarterback.
Yep.
Man. He was like a point guard playing quarterback. And we didn't go to the state championship win, but Letterman, Deshaun Robinson did his senior year. And then we were fortunate enough to get DeVell Jones, man, who left Don Bosco, but he was a 4-year school kid.
Right.
And he wanted to break Ty Stevens' rushing record. And I didn't take the kid seriously because he went to Don Bosco. But it didn't work out for him there. It worked out for us at Lincoln. That was great.
And he ended up going to Monmouth and
had
a great career there.
Yeah, he's doing great. He wants to be either a football coach or a state trooper. Mm-hmm. But I think that might change his senior year. He might get a shot at the NFL as well. So.
Could very well be. He's got an NFL body, that's for sure.
Yeah. One of the things I'm really proud of, though, is the number of police officers I have.
Okay. And offhand how many?
We have Herman Malaby. We have Tyrell Darby. We have Alex Sands. We have, my nickname, I call him Soup. So we have about 6. We have 6 guys.
Okay. All right. More importantly, okay, do you know offhand how many kids you were able to get to go, never mind Division I, just to get out of Jersey City and go to a
75.
College somewhere? What's
75.
it? 75. 75.
Yep.
How amazing is that number?
Well, that's the most thing I'm proud of. I mean, everything else doesn't matter. I mean, that to me is the most. That's the thing we put our hand on. That our gold star moment is that when we hear that number, we raise our hand and say, hey, we did something good. We're proud of that number.
Okay.
And we all, we've also had some guys, man, that taste the dark side of life and are locked up that play for us well. But that number is way tinier than the number of guys we sent off to school and actually having some pretty productive lives. And we got a couple of investors. We got an investment banker. We got a guy working for a big top 5 accounting firm. Not along with the police officer. We got a film guy. So we have an eclectic bunch of. Got a couple of guys that want to be chefs. We have 2 teachers. I got a football players in China teaching now. Yeah. Played on my 06 team, Absalom Lopez.
And you have perhaps the number 1 quarterback coach in northern New Jersey in Lamar McKnight, who's now everybody and their mother sends. If your kid wants to be a quarterback, who do they go to get lessons from? Lamar McKnight.
Well, Lamar was a very articulate, handsome guy with a tremendous, freakishly great arm. And one thing, he loved the art of quarterbacking. And he could talk about being a quarterback all day, and he did great things for us, man. Under his reign, man, we won a tri-county championship.
Yep.
And we won some big games with him, man. And he was a very, John Sandin did a great job with him. We were running the spread offense with him, and he did some great things for our program. And I'm very proud of him to see that he's taking his gifts and sharing them. And that's one of the things that I'm very fortunate about. A lot of kids that play for us, man, they really believe in paying it forward. I mean, they're just not interested in their own thing. They aren't interested in helping other kids, and that's the Jersey City way. I'm from that Jersey City culture, the FAR and Dr. Epps and, Mr. Hurley and that clique where you help people, man. You know how Jersey City is. I'm talking about the Jersey City we grew up, the Brummer ice cream.
Absolutely.
Going to get a hot dog, Boulevard Franks, the Lowy State Theater, Stanley Theater, man. The Roosevelt Stadium. I'm from that Jersey City, and Laco's restaurant, and
you and I both. That's
Casa Dante back in the day, and remember the Canton on the square?
Oh gosh. That's the first time I ever had Chinese food was at the Canton Tea Garden.
Yeah, I remember we talked a couple of years ago when the basketball was like the Big East around here, man. Yep. So, growing up in that Jersey City, you got to help, man. There's no way in the world I'm going to be Coach Hamp without not saying, hey, I got to help somebody. Okay. Bill O'Day has helped me out, man. I'm always looking for the last remnants of that Jersey City guy. And Jim, you're one of them. It's not a lot of us left, man.
No, not a lot. Everybody else has packed up and moved out.
I'm tell you, the FAR, that dude, man. I ain't gonna tell you how I felt. Him and Dr. Epps, man. It's a whole nother podcast conversation. Those two dudes, man. When they used to get finished with me, man, I laughed so hard because they used to always bother me about my little weirdness character thing. They get a kick out of me. My levels of discipline they used to watch. And but that's Jersey City, man, and I'm a product of that. And I'm proud, man. And it's like I said, when you're a Jersey City guy, man, you shake them in the hand, look you in the eye, you know it's going to get done. Yep. There's not a lot of those guys left, man.
No, not at all, not one bit.
And I'm lucky enough to be that I can say that I met a lot of them that took care of me. Yep. Took care of me. I'm proud, and I try to do the same that was done for me.
Yep. Well, I apologize for the beeping that was going on while we were recording there, but that was my phone, which is how we record this podcast, and my phone was going off as we were in the middle of talking.
Jim, what's funny, man? I keep thinking, Bob Hurley spoke to our first game. He gave our pregame speech the night before we played Emerson.
Is that true?
First year as head coach. Yep, Mr.
Wow.
Hurley.
That's impressive.
He came down the old gym, and he reminded me that he played basketball at St. Peter's High School.
Yeah, St. Peter's Prep, and then St. Peter's College.
And he played in the gym, and he played against my uncle Donald Main at Hudson. His nickname was Hudson.
Yep.
And because Jersey City everybody has relationships with each other. Once he heard my last name, he knew I was related to a basketball player that played at Lincoln during his time, and he also remembered me when I played high school football. And he explained to the kids who I was and my legacy, and they didn't know that I didn't sell them anything.
Right.
And I was so proud, not only that he cared enough to tell my football players I was a pretty good athlete. I come from a serious background, and to take me serious. Once he put that stamp on my head, I was flying, man. I was flying that day, man. I was ready. We lost to Emerson 20-0, but I didn't care. We played hard, man.
You got Bob Hurley to talk.
Hey, Bob Hurley told me, man, that, hey, man, listen, man, you're doing the right thing. That's all I needed.
Okay.
Once he said it, and you told me don't quit, I was good to go. And once all you Jersey City real dudes was telling me keep digging, keep plugging, that was not a problem.
All right. Well, incredibly, we spent 40-some minutes talking about you. We didn't get a chance to talk a little bit about you talk about being eclectic. There's nobody more eclectic in Jersey City than Robert Hampton. So let's just talk about that a little bit. And first, every time we get together, we do a preseason preview. You always have something different to talk about, whether it's music or movies or sports or whatever. So tell me a little bit about how did your love of movies begin? And where did that all begin when you were a little kid?
My grandmother, man, she loved Humphrey Bogart, and she loved James Cagney, man, and Edward G. Robinson. And she was a Cary Grant nut. So I spent a lot of time, my parents worked a lot, so I spent a lot of time watching her. You remember we used to come home from school on Channel 7 was to be that, what was those movies used to come on, the Spartacus movies on?
Yeah.
So my grandma used to be watching that, man. I used to be with her, so I just became a movie nut, man. And
The Afternoon Movie, it was called.
Yeah, the Afternoon Movie, man. The $1 Million Movie or something like that. Remember Creature Feature?
Creature Feature on
Channel 11?
The
Crawling Eye Monster movie?
Yeah.
And then I used to always imitate. It's Alive by Frankenstein, man. Colin Fitch, whatever his name is, it was the guy, the original Dr. Frankenstein.
Okay.
And Bela Lugosi. So all my life, man, I was just into movies, man. And I loved them. And I equated that to things in my life. And then 70s rock.
How did that come about? How in the world does an African American man?
Rock was, we had something at All Saints called a Dartmouth House, where they send kids from Dartmouth down to the urban area to screw our brains up,
Yeah,
and make us think we go to Ivy League schools. And they should come down there, man. They should be and they soundtrack. Now remember, this is the early '70s. I'm like 9, 8 years old. Yeah, no, not 1970, 10 years old, 71. And then they said the Animals, the Yardbirds,
oh my
the
God,
Beatles. Then I got into a little Led Zeppelin in college, man, in Kashmir. Definitely Rolling Stones, man. And then I just found that stuff interesting because it was different than what I was exposed to. But it was the Dartmouth House kids coming from all parts of the United States coming into the Lafayette area, and they used to bring their music with them.
okay,
And then we had the Motown and the Motown and the Stax music, the James Brown stuff, and I would be listening to the Animals, man. We gotta get out of this place. I love that Eric Burden. So then that did it. So now, man, I got all this stuff in my head. Ed Sullivan Show, all that, the Supremes, the Temptations. So now I go to school in Boston. I get introduced, man, to, the Jay Giles Band
yep,
and all that culture up there, man.
The Cars.
Then my roommate from New Hampshire turned me on to one dude, man. I threw the album at him. It was Bruce Springsteen. I said, I'm not listening to this. And then I liked it.
okay,
And Neil Young, man. And, yeah, man, then that's what did it, man. So once I started coaching, man, I started seeing like similarities in music and sports teams, man, that I liked. And I was like, man, a lot of these things remind me of like things that were happening to me as a coach. I would equate to a movie or a movie or a song or a band that I liked, and I would just. So when you would come around, man, you would ask me a question. You just send me on a rant. And then what people don't know about me, I promoted jazz concerts, lived in Charlotte. And then that was my love of jazz, and I've been to Cuba, I've been to Japan, because of my love affair of jazz.
wow. Let's see. There's something else I didn't know about you.
I promoted jazz concerts in Charlotte, man. I did Chucho Valdez, the Cuban legend, piano. I did Diana Krall. I did
Wow.
Nancy Wilson. I did Terrence Blanchard, Gil Scott-Heron. What else did I do? Dee Dee Bridgewater. Diane Reeves, man, yeah, man. Diana Krall was probably and Joshua Redmond.
Okay.
I did a lot. Yeah, I did that.
Diana Krall, who said that she's still to this day, it's not a good day unless she's had her glass of Jack Daniels and 2 packs of cigarettes. That's that's what she lives by.
She's a tough chick, man.
Yeah,
I mean, I met her, man. She's married to Elvis Costello now.
That's right.
Yeah, man. She was hilarious, man, and I took her to a restaurant. I took her to get some fried chicken and collard greens.
Oh, that was you had to, right?
Yeah, man. She performed. She said, I don't know, like I'm not used to just eating this much. Hey, don't worry about it. I'm paying you. Eat it.
Okay. All right. Now talk. We have 10 minutes left. Talk a little bit about your love of old sports teams and how did that all come about? Teams that you.
Okay, the Mets was the first baseball team I fell in love with because of the nuns at my school, Sister Mary and Sister Donna. They were really into the Mets. They thought Tom Seaver was cute. That's how it started. But they always.
And that's at what school? All Saints.
All Saints, yeah.
Okay.
They remember, man. It was like. I remember Raymond Ortez liked the Baltimore Orioles. Man, he probably deny that now, but I remember, man. She said, "Listen, all you kids in this room are underdogs. You're gonna like the Mets. Why?" And she explained why we need to like the Mets because the Mets were dynamic and they were feisty. And they won't go away. And I think they had just beat the Cubs or something. Yep. And the games were so epic, man. I'm like, man, these guys aren't talented, but they tough, man. I liked it. And they were making these great catches. The nuns was going bananas. I just fell in love with them, man. Then they had a song that after Dream the Impossible Dream they sang on television.
That's correct. No,
Yeah,
they saying you gotta have heart on television.
Yeah, they said, one of them.
That's
I
what
remember
it was.
that.
They gotta have heart from Dan
And then I
Yankee.
fell in love with the Big Red Machine because they were just scary.
Yeah.
And then you had the Willie Stardew We Are Family team.
Yep.
And then you had the Reggie Jackson A's, man. They had these great nicknames. Vita Blue, that's his real name. Raleigh Fingers with the crazy handlebar mustache. Joe Rudy, Bert Campanaris, Blue Moon Odom, Catfish Hunter. You had man, these dudes. So they were colorful teams, man. So when I became a coach, I saw that I had colorful characters, man. And I would try to emulate things. I was a big Celtics fan. How Red Auerbach organized his program, and then I liked what John Thompson did, and Louis Carnesecca did, and I was always a Rick Pitino fan because I knew him in college. So that's all. So all that just inspired me as a football coach.
Well, it certainly has. There's no question. Yeah, but
so you look at all my teams, man. I try to put something in there of something like this particular team, even though.
But don't your kids look at you like you're nuts, like saying, "Coach,
they think
what are you
I'm nuts,
talking
man.
about?"
They don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah, right. They have no idea. You're talking about the
No,
1969 Mets. They don't have any idea.
Because what happened? Usually, someone shows up that's like in my age group that shows up at practice, and they explain me to them, or a former player or a guy that grew up with. They explain my character to them. They find me hilarious, and things I like, things I don't like. They find the music I listen to insane. Like the other day, we had a weight room. I was playing Queen, man. Radio Gaga. They didn't want to hear that nonsense, but I loved it. Then they know I'm into Frank Sinatra. So one day I was playing My Way in the weight room, and they were like, "Oh, man, what's going on with you, man?" It's like, where you get this music from?
Do you realize that you have to be the only African American coach in America who's playing Frank Sinatra to his team? I hope you realize that you are the only one.
Oh, man, listen, man. The chairman of the board, man. His work with Count Basie and Quincy Jones is epic, man. I'm a Frank Sinatra, man. I drink Jack Daniels because of Frank Sinatra.
There you go.
That's my man. That's my man. Yeah. Frank Sinatra.
And you're both from Hudson County. So you're both born in Jersey City. See, son?
That's right, man. We was born up on Audubon Park somewhere around there.
Yeah, no, that's where they lived. That's when
him and Nancy.
Him and Nancy, when they first got married, they lived up near Audubon Park, right across the street, right on Bergen Avenue.
We can't play Madison, man. I'm in there. I had the guys, the refs, man, talking to me about Led Zeppelin songs,
And they're talking about Led Zeppelin songs, and you're saying, "Hey, I'm from the area where Frank Sinatra was born." Yeah,
that's right, man. He couldn't believe I even knew who Led Zeppelin was.
Yeah, no, especially.
I know Planet. I know who Jimmy Page is. Yeah. His guitar work on Cashmere is unreal. Yeah. He's like, "How you know about that?" Just because I'm African American, I know good music. Music is good music.
That's exactly the reputation that comes. Once you think you're African American, you don't think of all these white people and white music and white movies that you would never think. But that's,
think about it. Remember I told you, man. Listen, man. One of the greatest jazz albums of all time, man. Miles Davis, Kind of Blue.
Yep.
Bill Evans would play a major role in that, man. He's a white cat, so you never know. You never know, man. So you don't judge people. You deal with talent. You deal with character. You deal with the content of their character, man.
And you want to talk about jazz?
He was born in North Carolina,
right?
But he lived in him. Yep.
But he lived in Weehawken. So.
Yep. So I'm telling you, man. I'm lucky. I've had a lot of diverse experiences, and I've tried to bring it all to my coaching style. It drives my coaches crazy, and my pregame speeches, man. They'll tell you, man. They don't know what the hell I'll be talking about half the time.
Okay, you got 4 minutes left. Talk to me a little bit about what's the future of Lincoln football looking like over the next couple of years.
Well, hopefully I'll be a part of it. I think this year's team 5-5.
And unfortunately, for those who are just listening, Coach Hampton's team lost just this past weekend to Camden.
Camden was extreme, the most talented team I've seen in like 5 years. extremely talented, tough. We had them on the ropes for a minute. We just don't have the athletes. But I think the next
Although let's face facts, a Jersey City team playing a Camden team in the Central Jersey Group 2 playoffs, there's something really wrong with that, don't you think?
Man, that's bizarre, man. I'll let somebody else deal with that, man.
Right,
Maybe someone
okay.
will address that down the road. 'Cause that shouldn't have happened. But
Right.
it is what it is. We lost. They're a great team, but I wish we didn't have to take a 2-hour bus ride. But they beat us. But I think the next 2 years, we have something special cooking in their locker room, man. These kids are tough, man. They're tough. We had a really young team last year. We had like 8 guys on this field that never played varsity football. So we're going to be all right, man. And we got a great quarterback coming back, kid named Oatmeal.
Yep.
Hopefully he don't play like his name. So we're going to be all right, man. We got some talent.
And what's his real name? Oatmeal.
Jamil Lawrence. His father played for Lincoln, Michael Jackson back in the 80s.
Okay.
And we have a couple of derbies coming in, so that could
More
be
derbies. Okay.
We got one derby coming in. That's an 8th grade out here. We got some nice running backs, man.
Is he Frank's brother or is he Frank's cousin?
No, he's their cousin. He's Rock Darby's nephew. Remember Tyreek Darby? He was your athlete of the year.
He was the Hudson Reporter Athlete of the Year. That's correct.
Yep, that's my man.
Okay.
He might join me as a coach as well.
Okay,
but,
good.
So we should be pretty good, man. We're going to have a big line. They're a little more athletic than last year's line. We just got to get them as strong as last year's line. But they're going to be bigger. So I like where we're heading, man. We got a great coaching staff. I stole Conroy, out of the prep legacy. So I got Stevie Pankowitz. So Mario's still with me.
That's correct. Mario Santana, my idol. Mario's,
man, like Norm from Cheers, man.
Yeah,
he's just there, man. He's my Norm from Cheers, man.
He's the reason why I had the gastric sleeve surgery. He inspired me to do so.
Mario is like a horse, man. I need him, man. He's like a go-to guy, man. He's our horse, man. He keeps everything. He keeps me honest and puts me in check when I get out of line. You need a compass like Mario around you.
I hear you.
So that's his role, man. But I think that we're going to be very good. I think we can make another run, and I like our chances next year.
Good.
We're going to be way more athletic than last year. But last year's team was tough, man. We just lost our running backs early in the year, and we had to get really creative with running the football.
But you had a very competitive year, and more importantly, you took another Jersey City public school team to the state playoffs, which back when you first started, everybody would have never thought that there was going to be a team.
No, I didn't see that happen.
No, 11, and it's what, 11 out of 13 years? 11 out of 13?
Yes, sir.
That's an amazing statistic right then and there. So,
it's been the kids, man. It's been a great ride,
Coach Robert Hampton, I really appreciate that you came very close to speaking as long as Coach Hurley did. You came real close. You're only 47 seconds less than what Coach Hurley did last week.
Story of my life, man. I'm coming up short. But hey, anytime I mention Coach Hurley, same breath, man, I'm on it, man. Tell him I said hi.
I will do. And thank you so very much for being my guest here today on the podcast, the Hudson County Sports Podcast. And we'll have another one next week with another special guest. And I thank everybody for listening to last week. And I know Coach Hampton is glad that he could be a part of it here today. And I thank you again, Coach Hampton. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you for having me. Have a good night.
All right. Take care now. And,
bye-bye.
And we'll be back next week with more of the Hudson County Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Take care now.